Hello everybody, and this is Chaos with Chaos Esports Productions, bringing you another viewer cast. Today we're going to be looking at a PvT submitted by MacKash. So we're going to be taking a look at his build, giving him a few pointers, help him get out of Bronze League. I know he is currently #1 in Bronze League, or at least that's what it was when he sent that email to me, but anyways, playing a silver player. So we're going to take a look at his build, get an idea of what he's doing, and what things he can improve on. So, we're going with a 9 Pylon Scout, which generally in the lower leagues is the safer play. Once you start getting into gold and platinum, it's probably more common to scout after the gateway more than it is the pylon. But right off the bat, we do notice that our opponent has fully walled off. When we see this, one thing that I like to do is I like to take this probe and just simply poke up the ramp, because that'll give you a good idea of what he's got up here. If he's got like 6 racks just chilling out, you want to get these type of this type of intel, and just by coming up here, you can immediately say, hey, he built his second supply depot before he started his barracks, which means his barracks is significantly delayed from. I mean, he's delayed his build to wall off and kind of put you in the dark. So right off the bat, we can say, hey, if we get out a zealot and a stalker quick enough, we can probably punish this a little bit, because the likelihood of him having many marines out are slim to none. So just some small intel you can get just by that one small little transaction of walking up that ramp. So we're going to have double gas pop down. One thing that I like to do is right after the first gateway is planted down, roughly around 14 to supply, I like to plant down my first gas. And then at around 15 or 16 supply is when you should have just enough for your first pylon. And then you can choose whether or not to build the second gas or go straight into your cybernetics core. Generally speaking, by going double gas, you delay your cybernetics core by 3, 4, at most 5 or 6 seconds. So, just a small little tidbit. So, you're going to go with the classic 2 in gas, which I'm okay with. Getting out your first zealot. Now, had you gone 1 gas, you could have gotten out your zealot a lot quicker, and then right behind that, you could have chrono boosted out a stalker and gone over and put on a little bit of pressure. So far, nothing too terribly wrong with the build. Gonna finally get 3 guys into gas, and now you're more or less fully saturated on your main. So, looking good for right now. Getting down the Robo Bay, I think this is a wise decision that gives you the option of getting out your observer quick enough to go in and see what your opponent's doing. And then also choosing to get the Mothership Core. Personally, I like getting the Mothership Core a little bit earlier. That way it has enough energy to deal with any sort of one base timing push. Gives you the option of throwing down that photon overcharge and doesn't limit you too terribly much as far as units. So gonna go for a really early +1. Personally, I haven't done anything with super early +1s. I mean, you're at the 6-minute mark. In the lower leagues, it's probably okay to stay on one base for a little bit longer, but as you rank up, you're going to want to start thinking about taking your Nexus a lot earlier. One thing that you can do is, once you get your Cybernetics Core out and get your first, maybe for Zealot, your Warp Gate Research and your Mothership Core out, right then, if you plant down your Nexus, then you'll have just enough energy on your Mothership Core to plant down a photon overcharge and be able to defend off most early pushes. In general, it's just a fairly safe build style. So gonna be getting up your warp gates. It's pretty interesting mothership scouting. I think that's pretty useful. 7 minutes. Not the most typical timing for anything in particular, but definitely good to get an idea of what's going on. One thing I forgot to mention at the very beginning of the game with your 9 scout, you scouted back in here and then just went straight over into your opponent's base. One strategy that I've seen on the ladder is a barracks hidden, tucked away back here for a really early, aggression type push. So just something to consider when doing your early scout. Okay, observer's gonna get across, warping in units, getting out your +1. Twilight Council going down. Twilight Council should probably go down around halfway halfway completion of your +1. As you can see, Twilight Council takes 50 seconds. So if it takes 50 seconds, halfway done would be at 75. Your Twilight Council will finish a little bit before your +1 gets done. So that means that'll allow you to just go straight into +2 and not have to worry about it. We do notice he does go for a scan. Now, one thing that I do notice is this observer sits over here for a significantly long time. Getting in and actually understanding what your opponent's doing at this point is very, very critical because you've scouted that there's no natural. With no natural, anything could be coming your way. So just keep in mind that you need to be preparing and start getting in here and figuring out what's going on. So you're going to be planting down the Robo Bay, getting up a couple more gateways. On one base, 5 gates are really hard to sustain with Colossus production. You really need to get an expansion up a lot quicker than this in order for this to, be something of use. Also, get a little pylon blocked. It happens to the best of us, so no big deal. But rather than plant down 3 pylons, plant down maybe 1 or 2 or 4. Plant down just 1 or 2. That way you can get your Nexus up as quickly as possible. Now, one crucial thing that your observer sees that you might not be paying attention to is the fact that there are only 2 Marines sitting here. If there's only 2 Marines, it's 10 minutes in. 10 minutes is usually the timing attack for Marine Marauder Medevac. Usually has 2 Medevacs and then a big ball of Marine and Marauder. And that usually should be showing up roughly at the front of your base at this point. So definitely should be a little bit more cognizant of what's going on. And I believe this is actually the point in which his Marine Marauder ball shows up, as we can see. One thing that would have helped this engagement significantly is a Guardian Shield and maybe a handful of force fields. A force field here and here would leave him just this tiny little gap that he has to come up in order to be able to do any damage with these units. So by you simply paying attention to this as opposed to what's happening on the minimap, you pretty much lose your entire army. Time Warp goes down, and very critically, your mothership core is done, is killed, so you have no option for photon overcharge. This kind of goes back to, had you planted down your Nexus just, I don't know, a minute earlier, the Nexus would be done, a photon overcharge could have been planted, and this would be, pretty much useless. So, you're going to continue on getting units, trying to deal with all the pressure. You're going to cancel your Nexus. Honestly, I'm not sure I necessarily agree with that. You know how many units he has, and you haven't seen anything stream over. So one thing you can assume is that he's not reinforcing, which means all you really need is these 2 Zealots and maybe a couple Stalkers, and that is more than enough to clean this up. So that continues to let your Nexus get finished, as well as defend off what you're trying to deal with. When in doubt, let your Nexus take a little bit of damage. It's okay. If you have to cancel it, wait until the very last second to cancel it, rather than... Because, I mean, the longer that it takes for your Nexus to get up, the longer it's going to take for your economy to get going. You do scout. He's starting to put on a factory and a starport, as well as planting down his his third, but his natural, whatever you want to call it. Otherwise, starting to get Colossus out, getting +3. Which is actually fairly quick for +3. You don't have armor behind it, but +3 attack is going to be really, really good, assuming your opponent hasn't been keeping up with upgrades, which I'm pretty sure at this point we know he's not. So we'll go ahead and speed this up a little bit while things continue on. As far as your build at this point, you should probably be thinking about, well, first you should, oh, I didn't see that Dr. Templar goes down first time I watched through this. Probably shouldn't have 18 in the main. Should probably take a couple of those guys and put them on your natural. Get your natural economy getting up. Otherwise, you're just going to be coming out here. Now, the choice to push out here is a little bit scary just because you're very, very zealot heavy. Zealot charge is not quite done, and you've only got 2 Colossus. Personally, 3 Colossus is the optimum to push out with. It's enough to do plenty of damage if your opponent hasn't already gotten Vikings, but if he has, then basically what it does is it allows your Colossus to get enough shots off to deal with any giant Marine Marauder ball. Because the likelihood of him having too many Vikings out at this point are probably slim. So you're going to get in here, you're going to take out his natural, and then, unfortunately, he gets into a really, really good position that you can't do a whole lot about. And focuses down your Colossus, and then more or less deals with the rest of your army. Meanwhile, you're back at home doing a little bit of macroing. At this point, your money's running really, really high. I would highly recommend considering on either throwing down a couple more gates or even a second robotics facility, and then also considering expanding, because at this point your main's getting close to being mined out, and by the time that this is done, your nexus down here will be more or less done. So things you should be considering. Now, at this point, we do want to take a quick look at unit count. He's sitting on 24 Marines, 4 Marauders, 3 tanks, and 6 medevacs versus your 1 Colossus, 12 Stalkers, and 2 Zealots, and a Mothership Core. Now, at this point, you should be kind of preparing for the inevitable attack that is coming your way. So you're getting up more gates, and come on, start to build units. You're taking a long time to get your unit count up. Also, once you start to have an imbalance in minerals and gas, throwing down a Templar Archives is going to be really, really good to get up Archons and High Templar for Storms. Storms in the PvT matchup are very, very essential when you get up to the higher leagues, and playing with them. Actually, I found it was really funny because it's as you start to play with them, you realize how awesome they are, because it's literally just like this giant nuke button that you get with Storms. You're just like, I'm going to lay this on their army, and their army's going to disintegrate. So yeah, so Storms, very, very good. Getting up your 3rd. Continuing on, getting things up now. These guys should probably have already been sent to your 3rd to continue mining. One thing that I don't particularly care for in your playstyle is you don't do a lot of scouting and a lot of map presence. This probe was on the tower for a while, but disappeared somewhere. This tower still hasn't been taken. Your observer's kind of back with your army. Just getting out 1 or 2 extra observers. I like to put one just kind of here in the middle of the map, as well as one in front of their base. That'll give you optimum vision of, hey, I've got something coming directly at me, and then also the one in front of their base will give me an idea if they're ever going to like move out. So continuing along, he does a scan, sees your army, got more Colossus on the way. Observer finally going out and seeing that yes, he has indeed taken this base. But once again, the observer just kind of sits here and doesn't really do anything. This is the point where you choose to move out, which I think is a reasonable choice. But I do want to warn you that when in this position, you need to be figuring out where is his army, because if you don't know where his army is, there's a very good chance that he could just come out and annihilate you. So you walk up here, you don't see anything, you walk down here, actually get a free base. Now, positioning wise, what needs to happen is your zealots need to be in front. Do you have blink? No, you do not have blink. I would highly recommend getting blink as soon as charge is done or very shortly after. I hate getting into this position myself where all my stalkers are in front of my zealots and then this happens and I would say half of my stalkers die because they just are sitting there shooting and the zealots are in the back doing nothing, and eventually, you know, this works out for you, but in general you want to make sure you give yourself the best engagement possible so you can trade the most efficiently. So anyways, you're gonna come in here, gonna tear it up a little bit. He's not really gonna be able to do anything about it. You're gonna take out his wonderful Banshee, and then he's gonna leave the game, and you're gonna feel happy because you just beat a silver player and you're getting up there. So overall, I don't think your playstyle is terrible. I think actually you're doing a lot of things that are really good. I didn't really harp on pro production because I thought early game you did a really good job of keeping your pro production, and then you kind of stopped probes for a little while to get up your infrastructure and your buildings, and then you continued it again. Look at some builds where you're taking an earlier expand, because by waiting on 3 gates and a robo for as long as you did, you really limit your play. I mean, obviously you knew that he hadn't expanded, so you were safe in not expanding, but as you get higher up in ranks, even higher silver players will start to play similar to what you'll see maybe on WCS, just trying builds out things. Obviously their timings are not going to be perfect, or their gameplay in general is not going to be perfect, but they'll have the same general sense and style. So consider that, you know, looking into some of those builds and seeing what the pros and cons are and trying to form it to what you're seeing in your latter games. So I think that's really all that I had to say about this. Missing some guys in gas. Okay, I have one other thing. So yeah, so I hope you enjoyed. Feel free to leave any comments down in the comment section below. I'd love to hear your thoughts as to, you know, if you have any questions in particular about anything that I said or anything in general. Also, if you are not MacKash, I keep want to say MacKash or something. If you're not him, feel free to send me your replays to the email and the address. Greatly appreciated. I love doing videos for people, giving them some tips on what I think, where they're good, where they're bad, what they need to work on. So yeah, so I hope you guys enjoyed. If you're new to the channel, feel free to check out some of my other content. A whole bunch of StarCraft 2 content, soon to be League of Legends, and also some more generalized tutorial videos. Still working on those, but work has been crazy. So feel free to check out that content. Other than that, if you enjoyed, feel free to like. If you're new, subscribe. Check me out later, and I will see you all in the next game.